Okay, now I feel better. Uh, the recording will be available within a week on Ollie's website. Would everyone please remain on mute? Welcome, David, Lisa, and Joy.
Like screen share.
Yeah.
Say I've done it too often.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, I'm up then. Okay, so I click share, right? And
Click on the window. Share.
what window is that? This one?
The second one. If you're
This
doing
oh, this one. Oh,
presentation.
there we go. Okay. And then click share again.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, that worked. Okay. All right. Can everybody see the PowerPoint?
looks good.
Oh, okay, good. I did that right. I don't do that very often. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to go through the brief PowerPoint that I put together that pretty much gives an overview of the water testing program. And so, as Mike mentioned a moment ago, this is a 10-year project. We are just finished the second year. We test the water from April through October. And so we have the water samples actually right here in my office for October. And I just have to do the final testing here, and that will complete this year. We have 5 different areas that are tested, and then some of them have multiple collection points. So we have the bi-state Wolf Lake area. There's 5 areas in that section that are tested. Lake George has 2. Powderhorn has 1, Indian Creek 1, and Eggers Grove Southeast Pond has 1. Now, I'm actually originally from Crown Point, so I'm not as familiar as others with those areas, but that was one of the reasons that I asked Joey to put together a movie of the different areas so that everybody can see clearly where we're collecting the water from. And so Joey took out a drone and did drone shots of all these areas. And so we're going to go ahead and take a look at that film. Then I understand Mike is going to put on the Wolf Lake website. So let's cross our fingers that this works. Is the video coming through?
The
No,
Wolf Lake Watershed
The video is not
is a
coming through.
unique blend of urban and natural
the
landscape
audio is.
in between industry and vital wetlands. Covering over
Okay,
Private share.
share again. Oh,
800 acres across the Indiana-Illinois state line. Wolf
okay.
Lake is a dynamic body of water.
There, is it coming through
with a
now?
rich ecological history.
Yes,
Now it is? Okay.
yes.
You want to start it again so we don't?
Yeah.
Surrounding marshes.
Okay.
The Wolf Lake Watershed is a unique blend of urban and natural landscapes, nestled between industry and vital wetlands. Covering over 800 acres across the Indiana-Illinois state line, Wolf Lake is a dynamic body of water with a rich ecological history and importance. Its shores and surrounding marshes host diverse wildlife, including migratory birds, fish, and rare native plants that thrive in the unique freshwater ecosystem. As we soar above the lake, you'll see the contrast between urban development and lush, untouched marshland. Industrial plants border parts of the watershed, reminders of the area's economic history. But the lake itself remains a critical natural resource. In the 1950s, the construction of the Indiana Toll Road carved a dramatic path through the Wolf Lake area, dividing its waters into distinct sections. This tollway, a major transportation route connecting the Midwest, effectively split the lake in two, impacting both its ecology and visual landscape. The roadway and its accompanying embankments altered natural water flow and fragmented habitats, reshaping Wolf Lake's role within the watershed. Despite this disruption, the lake and its wetlands have adapted, continuing to support wildlife and filter water in the face of a significant urban and industrial development.
Isn't that really the western shore?
Sure, wouldn't it?
Joey says, yeah,
that's,
probably the western, yes.
William State Powers, yeah.
Moving southward, expansive stretches of cattails and reeds dominate the landscape, home to herons, egrets, and various waterfowl. These wetlands are essential in controlling flooding and absorbing pollutants, underscoring the importance of this area's preservation efforts.
How high up was the drain condition?
100 feet.
Oh, okay.
Right there, it's- that's-
Mhm. Is there any remnants to the Nike missile site still?
Yeah, there is some concrete pads
Oh, okay.
where they have the silos.
Oh, okay.
I often ride my bike from there, actually.
Hmm.
Some trails.
As our aerial view drifts over Eggers Grove, you'll see extensive woodlands interspersed with ponds and marshes, creating ideal habitat for native species. Situated at the southeastern edge of Chicago, Eggers Grove is particularly significant as a migratory stopover, providing crucial resting and feeding grounds for birds on the Central Flyway. Indian Creek, winding tributary near the Ford Assembly Plant, serves as a vital artery within the watershed. This small creek threads through urban and industrial landscapes, bringing an unexpected touch of nature into a highly developed area. Although influenced by nearby industry, Indian Creek remains a crucial ecological component, offering habitat and connectivity for various species. Lake George, located just south of Whiting, was once a sprawling body of water nearly the size of neighboring Wolf Lake. Decades ago, its southern portion was gradually filled in to accommodate industrial and urban expansion, significantly reducing its size.
Oh,
Originally, George Lake was a vast wetland ecosystem, rich in aquatic life and essential habitat for migratory birds and native species.
mhm.
Today, while smaller, George Lake still retains a unique ecological role within the Wolf Lake Watershed. Its remaining wetlands and open waters continue to provide crucial habitat and serve as a natural filter, helping to absorb runoff and support local biodiversity. The lake stands as a reminder of the area's shifting balance between development and nature, preserving a glimpse of the landscape's rich environments and past.
Okay. Everybody seen the PowerPoint again? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I think the video that Joey did really kind of enhances the idea of how the waterways and the houses and the industry are trying to coexist with each other the best they can. I think that came across very nicely in the video. So I was very pleased with the product that he came up with there. Okay, as far as the collecting goes, we have 4 residents that do that. I think they're all on the call this evening except for Joe. So we have Dave Matura, Joey Hinds, Joe Krushek, and then Lisa Sowa-Downs. And they're given collecting bottles that are only for their particular testing locations to keep things equal each time. And then they go out on the 3rd week of the month, again starting in April, and simply collect a sample of the water from their designated area. Because of the topography of the area and the water depth and so forth, it's sometimes somewhat challenging to do that. I know Joe mentioned once that he almost fell in once. It is a big project to do that every month. So as far as the collecting goes, they just simply put the bottle into the water and rinse it out a little bit, and then they collect the sample of water right there. And they do a couple of tests on site. The dissolved oxygen, which you have to do right there because that changes with temperature. So we have a probe that they put into the container that will measure the dissolved oxygen level. And then we have a pH probe that checks the pH and then the water temperature. So those 3 tests are all done on site there. And then they simply send me their results, usually via email, for me to put into a master spreadsheet then. Once that's done, they bring the probes and the containers back. I calibrate the probes each time they go out and just make sure they're working and so forth. And so at the main laboratory here on campus, I run the nitrate and phosphate test, which is a colorimetric test, which simply means that I add a chemical reagent to a sample of the water and allow it to react, and depending on the level of nitrate or phosphate present, it produces a certain level of color that I compare to a color guide to get the concentration of that particular component. Last year, I had suggested that we try looking at the metal content, since this is certainly an industrial area, to see if there's anything really significantly there. And I'm pleased to report, as Dr. Choi did too last week at the meeting, there's really virtually nothing getting picked up with the metal testing. That doesn't mean there isn't something there. It's just that the test strip simply could not pick up such a low concentration. I think about the only trace amounts we found a couple of times with some lead and copper, but there was nothing consistent at all each month. So we may discontinue the metal tests next year. Well, we'll see about that. And so once I do the testing here at the lab at the college, then I enter that data on a spreadsheet, and then that goes out to various individuals. With the Wolf Lake project, it goes out to all of the water testers. And then the spreadsheet also provides a constant average. So at the end of each month, it averages all the values for that year up to that point, just to give us an idea of where the water normally is at throughout the year. Then we just get ready for the next month for the next round of testing then. So we'll pick this back up again in April of 2025 then. And so that's essentially the water testing procedure. I'll let Joey, Dave, and Lisa, if they have any comments on their particular perspective of the process, if they have anything.
I'm gonna add, I do 4 sites. I do a site at the Avenue K channel, as well as across the street where the Wolf Lake now has been connected to Powderhorn. Those are 2 nice sites to test at because it's easy to get the water, and the Powderhorn connection is a really nice, clean, kind of full of lots of great wildlife and flowers and frogs and stuff. The 3rd site I test at is the Indian Creek, which isn't so nice. I test behind the Wolf Lake, behind Babe Ruth. That the last several times has been hard to test because the water levels have been so low that it's not really, I mean, it's just a little creek of water going through there. And the Phragmites has overgrown Indian Creek so much that it's, just a small area to be able to, to test the water. The 4th place I test then is right in Wolf Lake, near the flagpole. So again, a nice place to test. You're out there and, in the lake, out at the lake, and you can, enjoy being at the lake at the same time. So those are the 4 places I test. I do find myself picking up a lot of trash while I'm out there. So I feel like I'm doing double duty, that I'm, cleaning up the environment while I'm also doing the water testing. And been able to take some good photos too while I'm doing the water testing. So does anyone else want to share where they test or how, their spots?
Well, I test over at the north end of Wolf Lake. One of the spots is right behind my house, so it's really easy to walk out there and to the bike trail right there behind Cargill and Forsyth Park. And then the other location, you kind of have to go through some Phragmites, like you were saying, Lisa, there at Indian Creek. It's similar to, you have to push through, and there's a fence too. I have to hop over a fence, but there's already some sort of divot, like the deer jump over that, I think. And depending on the time of year, I'd say it was during the summer months, it was harder to push through that Phragmites, but they did just mow a lot of that down, the Port Authority. So it seems to be easier access now. At least for October it was. And then spring will be easy, and then it'll grow and get harder again, and you have to push through it. But yeah, it is nice to see a lot of people enjoying their time out on the lake there. Last time I was out there testing, I saw a lot of what do you call it? Kite surfers out on the lake.
Yeah, it's fall. The winds are blowing.
Last week it was very windy.
Well, I'll add my 2 cents. This is Dave Matura. My 2 sites are on George Lake. The South Basin, I test off the T fishing pier there, and I enjoy that. There's always a good amount of wildlife since it goes through a marsh, and I have some interesting conversations with the fishermen. The other location is in the North Basin on the North Shore at Superior Avenue. And I also have some conversations with walkers and bikers there, and both locations are really nice to be at.
How do your conversations go, David? Are they positive? Did people,
Most people ask what I'm doing and why, and is the lake polluted? And my answer is what I'm doing is taking water samples, and why is to get a 10-year running data points for 10 years. And is the lake polluted? Well, I don't think the water's polluted, but I say I don't know about the sediment. I've heard different things. Some people say it is, some people say it isn't, and I really have, no one has ever shared the results officially. The I hate to say it, the city of Hammond kind of cast a poor light on it with the lead exposure in the neighborhood, but I don't know that the lake has that lead because the lake is west of the Federated Metals and the predominant wind is southwest. So I think the lake was spared the lead pollution. So some people say it's polluted, and I say I don't think it is.
you ever see anybody swimming out there in Lake George?
Well, it's really too shallow to swim. Technically, you can't swim. You could go out there and wade around. Occasionally, there might be somebody out there splashing around, but it's really ankle deep, knee deep, and that's where a sandbar is. And that, there's really no sediment there, which is really great because it's so shallow. I think if there's any mud or sediment, it gets swept off that sandbar. The water is in that area is crystal clear. The bottom is wonderful. And I do see guys out there in their waders fishing the edges along the lily pads and along the reeds and the cattails. All in all, it's a pretty positive experience.
Dave, what do you know what the deepest point of any of the water bodies are over there?
On the North Basin, I would have to say the deepest point is southwest of Federated Metals, somewhat like halfway between Federated Metals and I'll say the causeway that splits the lake. And in the South Basin, I'm not so familiar with that. I think once you get out in the lake, it's pretty much all the same depth. The North Basin is shallow, the South Basin is relatively deep.
Yeah, about I think it was more than 10 years ago, they drained the North Basin because they were working on the northeast section where there was contamination. And so you could see that the center of George Lake was about 3 feet deep at the deepest. So it's a very shallow lake.
Okay. Any questions for myself or there are water sampling staff?
Yeah, I was just wondering what you mentioned. I think Joy mentioned people asking him questions about what he was doing out there. Was there any moment where things didn't go quite right, or if people stop by and question what you were doing?
For me, I've never been stopped. And again, I'm on Indian Creek, which is kind of cruddy, but nobody's ever stopped me to say, "Hey, what are you doing? You shouldn't be doing that," or anything like that. So I do as I think that for me it's neat to be a community scientist. That's how I feel being a water tester, like I'm contributing something to the greater good by going out every week to and getting these samples. So I think that I think it empowers people if they in the community to get involved, and this is a way to do it, that you feel like you're actually doing something hands-on. So it would be great it would be great if something like this was available for other things, that, there was a group that were doing air testing, or a group that was doing soil testing, or things like that. So I think it makes people more involved in having a greater respect for the watershed, how big it is. I mean, I think until I started doing this, I probably didn't realize how big the watershed was and how everything was so connected from one piece to the other. And so now when I'm out, I also do Cub Scouts. And so when I'm out with the Scouts, I make sure that we spend a few moments of whatever hike we're on to talk about the watershed, to talk about the connections. We did a walk around Lake George, and we talked about it and about the connections to the watershed. So I think that's been helpful for me.
Okay. Yeah, that was my next question about the Cub Scouts, but that's nice that you involve them in the entire watershed. And you're by state, right? They're from
Yes, our Scouts are by state. So there's Scouts from Whiting, and as far as Whiting to Vets Park to and anywhere in between. So yeah.
Any further questions?
I agree with Lisa. It does make me feel good, like I'm doing something positive. And additionally, I would hope that we could in the future, rather than just test for pollution or test for this and test for that, be more involved with, say, the Port Authority, which manages the Indiana site, in maybe controlling invasives or whatnot. And I know Joey said they were out there cutting down the Phragmites. I'm sorry to say I watched them do that. And in addition to cutting the Phragmites, they were cutting all the trees that were growing with the Phragmites. So I had real mixed feelings about that. I think if they had asked for some citizen input or volunteers, we would have been much more careful and spared the trees.
Was this recently?
Yes, they spent the last several weeks attacking it.
Oh, okay.
The dogwood, they can have the mulberries.
Yeah, interestingly enough, though, I know a fellow that had been planting black walnut along the channel, and my fear was that they would go and cut down all the black walnut.
Okay.
And I think that bodes well for why we need that the plan, so that there's an overarching plan. And if somebody has one idea that's good and somebody has one idea that's bad, that it's really governed by the plan.
And you've been attending those meetings, right? On the watershed?
Only if you've invited me.
Oh, well, I want you to be at every one.
Thank you. Yes.
I do think that it's important that we continue to let the community know what we're doing in any way we can. I do whenever I'm out. It's something I mention that you just recently, and Marianne was there just recently at a, I don't want to get all the letters wrong, but it was CCC. So it was a group of educators that came together, and I talked about the water testing, and I talked about, so I think it's, that's another thing that as volunteers, we need to keep explaining to the community what we're doing, and encouraging others to, know what we're doing. So.
And encouraging others to help out someday.
That's right, to step up.
That's right. And that's a good time to make connections with the community. And because I doubt if all four of you are going to be there for all 10 years. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe you are.
I hope so.
Yeah, I feel like I can't check out until I complete these
Right.
8 more years.
Okay.
That's a good life. Yeah, that's a good life goal.
Okay. Well, I can't be sure that I'll be around, but anyway. Okay.
Does anyone have any questions of us or anything else we can add or? I guess we could think about maybe next year doing it, doing our water testing on a day where we invite the community to drive along with us or something. Or someone from the Port Authority, the Hammond Port Authority to join one of one of those testers.
Yeah, let's over the winter we can think about things that that will involve the community. And
So you do something with Lake and she does the others.
yeah, and then in April will be we can talk about the
Yeah, that'd be good in April to join, have a quick meeting and talk about where we can, who we can bring out each month to maybe, showcase what we're doing or, maybe there's other people that are interested and just don't know.
okay.
The Port Authority comes to mind though.
But
Well, and the people from like the staff from Wolf Lake, that would be a good thing. I mean, they've seen me out there. The IDNR people from the Illinois side have seen me out there and they know who I am. So they're like, oh, there's that lady again. But it might be neat to actually have them go with me, be there one day to do the testing.
that's I was thinking that that we should be thinking how we can involve the community in how many different ways, because there's certainly more than one way of doing it. And I'm glad that that some of you have already had that conversation with the neighbors. So that's good. That was good.
Excuse me, this is Lee Witkowski from Lewis University in Romeoville, Illinois. And I'm just eavesdropping, lurking, or whatever. But where can your data be found? Can the public look at it? I teach field biology where we do the testing just like you do, but on a very short term, and conservation biology. And I'd be interested in having access to your data for my students.
Dave?
Yeah, what you could do is just simply email me. I'll put my email in the chat here, and then I can just add you to the distribution list that I send it to. That goes to everybody. Okay.
Well, if your students would ever want to take a road trip out, we'd be happy to show them our lake.
Well, thank you. We on the field biology, which I just completed, is only done every second year. And we do collect samples from Whalen Lake in Bolingbrook. And we've done Saganowski Slough. And we had a very nice thing on Tampier Lake in the Cook County Forest Preserve. So Lewis University is in Will County, and but I have close ties to Forest Preserve District of Cook County, and so I get a lot of help and access. For example, at Lake Tampier, the fisheries biologists there take us out on the lake, and they'll shock the fish, and we collect data that way. So they have a real good experience, and yeah, we could do it, but the transportation time would eat into the amount of testing and practice, and they're novices, as I am somewhat, and so they would be interested in watching, but right now I'm just interested in seeing if we could share the data.
That's good. I'm glad you made the connection this evening then. Any other questions? or points of conversation?
Well, speaking of the data, I just Dave, I'm volunteer at Eggers Woods with Cook County Forest Preserves, and I just I don't know, could you just talk about the importance or what kind of measures are what are cautionary measures in all these areas, the dissolved oxygen, the pH, temperature, nitrate, phosphate, just like what are good numbers and what are bad numbers? Because I'm real unschooled and unskilled at this.
Yeah. I'm not sure that I'm actually a chemist. I'm not a biochemist. So what I could do is contact Dr. Choi and see if he could provide parameters for that, and then I could send that out when I do the next test run. Are you one of the individuals that get my data each month?
I do not, but I'm sure I can get it from one of the others here at the meeting.
Okay, or just email me. I put my email in the chat there. Just indicate that you would like the data and also the what are the parameter levels.
Or just what your interpretation of it,
Mhm.
what you're seeing.
Yeah, I can put something out for that.
Great. Thank
Yes,
you.
Dr. Young Choi from Purdue Northwest was a main party to the formation of this group 2 years ago. And it came up at one of our all-day meetings in November that we just concluded last Friday for this year. But that was discussed in a couple years before we decided to implement it and get the funding to do so. So, and so yes, and I think we're willing to share, any information that we come up with others, and particularly the community, which around the lake. Good. We're is there anything else we could talk about? Marianne, are you in? Okay. She's
Yes, I needed to turn on my audio. Actually, I've turned on my audio to say, no, I'm sorry, I don't have anything. So I'll just turn my audio back off.
Well, okay, because I thought maybe you wanted to talk about Eggers a little bit more, but
Well, I think that you've got me on the program for December to talk about Eggers. So
exactly, and that will be Tuesday, December 3rd. Is that correct, Marianne? I think
first Tuesday, I'm not sure. I don't have my calendar here.
I've got a calendar somewhere.
Yes, that is correct, December 3rd.
Okay, so that's the date. And in fact, I mentioned it earlier in the introduction that that you'll be there, and I had December 3rd written a piece of paper in front of me.
Did anyone else need to upload a newer version of Zoom? I apologize for being late, Michael. That was why I was late. I was fighting with the update. So,
Oh, okay.
Yes, I did too.
oh,
I was complaining too.
Well, if we can't think of anything more to say, we should go watch the voting, right? So,
That's right.
so
Or
I,
simply go voting.
Yeah, there's still time.
okay.
I'm glad to see it's raining out, and so we are adding water to the watershed. So that's a good thing.
We're just adding water. Finally,
Yes.
finally, we got some rain.
Yes.
But anyway, we're grateful to the three of you for your presentations this evening. And Valerie and I thank you all for attending this evening's gathering. And I just want to remind everybody to enjoy Thanksgiving, which is my favorite holiday. And thank you for attending. And I can pause recording.